What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Darium's Competitive Pokemon, back with another standard deck profile. Today, we're going to be going over Tapu Bulu GX Vikavolt. I love this deck. It's one of my favorite decks in the new standard format. I think it gets a lot stronger now that Hex Maniac is gone, now that Garbodor takes a little bit of a back seat since there's not as many items prevalent in standard format. This deck was able to do well at the North American International Championships, earning a top 6 team placement, and I think it only gets stronger as the metagame evolves in this new standard format. For some of you that may have caught my list earlier in the week, I accidentally uploaded one with only 59 cards. I'm not going to be doing that anymore, guys. I'm really sorry. Funny enough, I was actually testing with that 59 card list by accident. I had just got home from Fort Wayne Regionals and started tossing these decks together, but this deck is the full 60 card version. So thank you all for being patient with me. I am loving this list right now and have, made a few changes since that last upload that I took down. If you're one of the 300 people that caught that, this list is total fire. I think this deck is absolutely stunning, and I think it has a very strong place in the upcoming standard format. So let's take a look. First of all, we play 3 copies of our main boy, Tapu Bulu GX. We also play 1 copy of Tapu Koko GX, who is a new addition to this archetype. Going to be talking about why I think it's essential here momentarily. We also play a 3-1-3 copy, line of Vikavolt, 1 copy of Octillery with 2 Remoraid's and 2 Tapu Lele GX. So obviously Tapu Bulu GX is our main attacker here. You could poke people with Horn Attack. He's got a beefy 180 hit points. You can Tapu Wilderness GX for 150 damage and heal him, but I found that this is a one-hit KO format. There are a lot of times where either your Tapu Bulu GX doesn't get attacked or he gets knocked out in 1 hit. So I found myself using Tapu Wilderness GX less and less in this standard format. There are a lot of one-hit KO decks out there. Talk about, Metagross GX. That deck can one-hit knock out Tapu Bulu GX using the new Necrozma or Metagross itself. Gardevoir GX, swings for big one-hit knockouts. Volcanion, with Turtonator GX and Ho-Oh GX can knock out Tapu Bulu GX in 1 hit. There are a lot of big one-hit KO decks that are going to be taking over standard format, Tapu Bulu included, especially now that Hex Maniac is no longer, the format has slowed down, and these big one-hit KO decks, can kind of thrive in a slower format. So I found myself using Tapu Wilderness GX less and less, which is one of the main reasons that we have Tapu Koko GX in this deck. The main attack that this deck tries to stream, though, is Nature's Judgment. You're going to be using Nature's Judgment over and over again in this list, and that's what we have Vikavolt for. So Nature's Judgment does 120 damage plus 60 more if you discard all the energies attached to this Pokemon. That's 3 energy for 180 damage. You discard them all, and actually discarding the energy leaves your Pokemon in a stronger position than it would be otherwise. It may seem like that may be very wasteful, but with Vikavolt here to strong charge the energy back to your Tapu Bulu GX actually leaves your board position relatively strong, because you discard your energy, making it so that it's harder for Gardevoir GX to knock you out, and it's harder for Pokemon like Tapu Lele to knock you out as well. So Nature's Judgment actually improves your Gardevoir matchup. The discard clause improves your Gardevoir matchup a whole lot, making it just a very strong deck, and is one of the main reasons why it's so good against Gardevoir GX. A Gardevoir GX needs to whip up a 6 energy Gardevoir or 5 and a Choice Band to knock out a Tapu Bulu GX with no energy on it. And that's where Tapu Koko GX comes in. This card is absolutely stunning in this list. I love it in here. I think that all Tapu Bulu GX decks should be playing 1 copy of Tapu Koko GX, and here's why. First of all, Arrow Trail. Incredible ability. You could just put this down onto your bench at any point in time. If you have a Lightning Energy in play, you can bring it onto your Tapu Koko GX, then Strong Charge a Lightning and a Grass, and you can instantly access any of its attacks. So not only does Arrow Trail act as an effective switching option, say you have a Vikavolt stranded active and you want to get an attacker into play, you can bench Tapu Koko GX and Arrow Trail your way in. If you have Octillery active, you can Arrow Trail your way in. Even if you have a Tapu Bulu active who is paralyzed or asleep or something like that, you can Arrow Trail Tapu Koko GX to the active to heal that special condition. Arrow Trail is obviously just a fantastic ability, but Tapu Thunder GX is the main reason we play this card. Tapu Thunder GX does 50 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So, against a deck like Gardevoir GX, Tapu Thunder GX can easily steal a crucial one-hit knockout against a fully loaded Gardevoir GX. Take this for example. Say you're going in with Tapu Bulu GX using Nature's Judgment and you discard all your energy and to knock out a Gardevoir GX or something like that. Then they may pile 5 energy onto a Gardevoir and a Choice Band, or even 6 energy onto a Gardevoir to be able to knock out Tapu Bulu GX in one hit. When they do that, you can come in with Tapu Koko GX and return them for a quick and easy, effortless one-hit knockout with Tapu Thunder GX. They have 5 energy in play. Anywhere in play, you could do 250 damage to knock them out clean in one hit. This is also fantastic against decks that stack energy like Volcanion EX and Ho-Oh GX, right? If they go in and they have 4 energy on a Turtonator GX, say they just turn 1 Kiawade, and they're ready to use Turtonator GX on the following turn, you could come in with Tapu Thunder GX and do 200 damage. It's just great numbers against Volcanion, which tries to stack up as many energy on its field as possible. So I find myself using Tapu Thunder GX all the time. Sky High Claws can be useful as well, just to be able to deal a solid 130 damage, especially against Garbodor. So Tapu Koko GX definitely making the cut, especially for just its versatility and effectiveness against Gardevoir GX. We're using a 3-1-3 copy of line of Vikavolt, which I found to be very effective. Vikavolt is our main support Pokemon with that strong charge ability, being able to accelerate 1 grass and 1 lightning from the deck per turn per Vikavolt that you have in play. A lot of times you're going to want to try and set up 2 copies of Vikavolt just because your board position is dependent on Vikavolt being in play. If you only have 1 copy of Vikavolt out and say you Nature's Judgment and discard all of your energy and your opponent's able to Guzma up Vikavolt and knock it out, then you will not be able to accelerate energy on the following turn if you have no Vikavolt in play. So very essential that we get 2 copies of Vikavolt into play, or at least 1 copy of Vikavolt and a Grubbin, so that you kind of have a safety net as being able to get that Vikavolt back into play if your opponent does go for the Guzma. Charge-a-Bug here helps us get that second Vikavolt into play, no problem. A lot of times you'll set up 1 and then you'll have 2 Grubbin out, maybe because you searched 2 Grubbin off your opening Bridget, and the Charge-a-Bug here can evolve up that second Grubbin so that you're just ready to go and get that second Vikavolt into play, no problem. Having 2 Vikavolt in play also allows you to just build up big Nature's Judgments and big energy drives out of nowhere. You could go from having no energy in play to having 5 energy on a Tapu Lele in 1 turn if you have 2 Vikavolt in play. And I found that to be very effective against decks like Gardevoir GX as well, since a lot of times they're going to be stacking a lot of energy onto their active Gardevoir in order to knock out your Pokemon GX that have no energy attached to them. So having multiple copies of Vikavolt, very important, though it is just a support Pokemon, so a 3-1-3 line is plenty sufficient. I do a lot of talking about consistency, but you don't need any more than 3 copies of Vikavolt, since your ideal board position is to have 2 in play, and 1 is plenty sufficient so long as you have a Grubbin in play ready to evolve into a Vikavolt eventually. I have squeezed a 2-1 line of Octillery in here. I think Octillery is just an amazing card in standard format. The more I test Octillery in these standard decks, the decks that play Octillery just simply outshine the decks that don't. And I think that this card is going to jump in price. I think that Octillery is going to be the new staple of standard format. It's going to be the new thing that helps you to draw through your deck in the middle of the game, where you used to be able to just grab your Verse Seeker and Sycamore 6 times in a game if you wanted to, right? You could just Verse Seeker, Sycamore, Sycamore, Sycamore. You can't do that anymore. So Pokemon like Octillery with that Abyssal hand just allow you to continue to fill out your hand throughout the course of the game without using cards like Sycamore. It also makes cards like Skyla very good, because you could Skyla for something and still draw cards. You could Guzma something, right, and still draw cards. And you could get end to 1 or 2 at the end of the game and still Abyssal hand up to get the game-winning play. Very crucial for Tapu Bulu GX, since Tapu Bulu usually will end the game by Guzma-ing up a Tapu Lele and Nature's Judgment for game. That is the game-winning play almost every time with this deck. You know, every deck plays Tapu Lele GX. Tapu Lele is always there on the bench, and Tapu Bulu just easily dispatches of Tapu Lele. So Octillery helps you get that game-winning play, you know, time and time again, and I've really loved it in this list so far. I found that it fits just fine. So that's it for the Pokemon cast. I'm very confident with this, you know, arrangement of Pokemon right now. It's been testing very strongly for me. Let's move on to the supporters and check those out. We are playing, as is standard, 4 copies of Professor Sycamore, 4 copies of N, because they are the 2 best draw supporters in the format, bar none. 4 copies of N allows you just to have the, you know, the maximum access to that hand disrupting supporter throughout the course of the game. Great for setting up and not discarding things. Sycamore, obviously great for just churning through your deck and accessing new resources that you, while dispatching ones you don't necessarily want. 3 copies of Guzma. As I said, 3 copies of Guzma is just fantastic. I've noticed the difference between playing 3 copies of Guzma and 2. Just having access to Guzma at the end of the game really makes the difference between winning and losing, especially for a deck like this that wants to Guzma out your opponent's Tapu Lele and finish them off for game. Having 3 means that you will usually have 1 copy left in deck at the end of the game when you need it to win. If you only play 2, you might discard them early and they might never get to be effective. So 3 really is the magic number. Playing 2 copies of Skyla just to be able to search out our one-of items. Great for setting up Vikavolt with rare candy. Skyla is exactly what you want to be able to do that. You can Skyla for a rare candy or Skyla for an Ultra Ball to set up your Vikavolt, and then you can strong charge immediately. So the turn 2 attacks with this deck are very real. They're very, attainable, and Skyla helps us get that. Since we don't need to really draw into our energy, Vikavolt just accelerates it from deck. I found that Skyla is just a very valuable supporter in this deck. We are also playing 2 copies of Bridget. I'm really hype on 2 copies of Bridget right now in almost all of my setup decks. I think this card is essential. It already has jumped in price and is like a $4 or $5 card right now. I expect that to go up even further once people find out that they're going to be playing 2 copies of Bridget in a lot of their setup decks. Just not prizing your Bridget is so important. Having access to it early. If you can play Bridget without playing Tapu Lele, you're off to such a strong start. And also, you just want, when you do Lele for it, you want it to not be prized. So 2 copies of Bridget has increased the odds of my turn 1 Bridgeting just wholesale. It has been fantastic. You only prize, both of these like 1 in 100 games or something. So just really, really hype on 2 copies of Bridget right now. Test it for yourself. Let me know what you think. But I think that 2 copies is the way to go heading forward. And I really love just this supporter layout. It's been working very well for me. This is just, the basics. This is exactly what you want and the amount of them that you want. Really 2 Skyla, 2 Bridget, along with kind of the basic essentials here has been working out very good as kind of a backbone of my stage 2 setup decks, and I'm going to continue to use this. You can port it into other archetypes as well. Like this is the same, setup more or less that we have in Gardevoir, and it just works really well. So I'm using it in here too. So let's take a look at our items. We are playing 4 copies of Ultra Ball, obviously to search out our Pokemon, set up our stage 2s, get our Tapu Leles. Really fantastic for a lot of things. Playing 4 copies of Rare Candy just because it is so essential that we get our Vikavolt into play. We can't afford to play like 3 copies of Charge-a-Bug, like Gardevoir plays 3 copies of Curlia because, you could afford to play that many. You can't really afford to be that slow with your Vikavolt. You really want to get it into play as quickly as possible so that you could start to stream your strong charges, as early as you can. 4 copies of Rare Candy just allows you to do that and gives you the flexibility to evolve up into a second Vikavolt consistently, even if your first one gets knocked out. See that we're playing 3 copies of Field Blower. That is because it is essential to keep those tools off of your opponent's Garbodor if you play against Garbodor. We have Skyla that can search these Field Blowers out. They also remove pesky things like Fighting Fury Belt, which could keep you from hitting your one-hit knockout numbers against Pokemon EX and Pokemon GX. So Field Blower is just really good in this deck. I think 3 is essential just in case you play against Garbodor decks. If there are no Garbodor decks in your area, then 1 or 2 should be fine. However, if you do expect people to try and stay true to Garbodor and expect them to show up to tournaments with that, 3 is kind of the magic number. I do like 3 Field Blower in here just to be safe. However, you can use these for other things, like if you wanted to play more Float Stone, or if you wanted to play Fighting Fury Belt, you would have to be confident that you wouldn't play against any Garbodor, but if you're that confident, then you could cut down to 2 of these, or maybe even 1, if you're just using it to remove Fighting Fury Belts from basic Pokemon. We also have found room for 2 Choice Band. Choice Band is great in this deck just because it allows you to hit your one-hit knockout numbers versus Pokemon with 190 hit points, or all the way up to 210. So you're talking about your Turtonator GX, your Alolan Ninetales GX, Golisopod GX, even Espeon GX. All have around 200 hit points and can be knocked out with Tapu Bulu GX with the Choice Band, using that Nature's Judgment attack. So being able to hit 210 is just fantastic numbers, and Choice Band allows us to get there. We are also playing 2 copies of Energy Recycler, great for being able to shove 5 energy back into the deck. You're going to be wasting your energy like crazy in this deck. You're going to be attaching them to Tapu Bulu GX and then just judgmenting them off. Energy Recycler can allow you to just throw those energies back into the deck so that you can continue strong charging. 2 is great in this list and works 90% of the time. Sometimes you have to discard an Energy Recycler though, or you prize one, and you will notice that. So I could even see a 3rd copy of Energy Recycler. It's just that good. We're also playing 1 copy of Float Stone and 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher. This is the list I'm testing right now. I do like Choice Band in here. I was playing 2 copies of Float Stone, but I think that 1 is sufficient. This will make it a little hard, a little more difficult to get your Grubbins out of the active than it was with 2 Float Stone. But we do play 3 copies of Guzma as well, which should work as switching cards. So I'm testing out just 1. You could search this out via Skyla if you need to be able to get your Grubbins out of the active. They are a little chunky. They have a fat retreat cost, so they are a little harder to get out of the active. Floatstone does help you do that, but I think with Guzma, you can afford to only play 1. This is something I'm in the process of testing. Let me know what you play as far as your switch cards in this deck. I think 1 should be just fine though. And I did find room for a Rescue Stretcher as well. I really like Rescue Stretcher in here, especially with that Tapu Koko GX. If you have to Sycamore Tapu Koko GX early in the game, that's okay because you're going to want it against Gardevoir GX. Also, if you have to Sycamore, your Vikavolts, that's okay because you can bring them back with Rescue Stretcher. I like Rescue Stretcher in here because it allows you to reuse your Pokemon in a pinch. You could get a Tapu Bulu out of the discard pile very quickly. It helps you to get your Vikavolts out of the discard as well. You notice that we're not playing any basic non-EX attackers. I was playing those Tapu Koko promos earlier, but I found myself not using them as much and decided to go with Choice Band instead and to just try to optimize the list to be able to just kind of tank with Tapu Bulu as best as possible. So if you want to attack with a non-EX attacker, which you're going to want to do once per game, I suggest just going in with Vikavolt. He does 150 damage. He could do 180 damage to a Pokemon GX or EX with a Choice Band, so you can even use your Vikavolt to knock out a benched Tapu Lele or something like that, which could be really good. Rescue Stretcher can throw that Vikavolt back into the deck after it gets knocked out and allows you to set your Vikavolts back up so that you can use it effectively as a non-EX attacker as well. So Rescue Stretcher has been good in here. It could easily be a Super Rod as well if you like Super Rod better. It kind of jives with the logic of the deck, since you can get your energy back into the deck, which is really important too. So test this out. Do you like it as a Rescue Stretcher? Like it as a Super Rod? I find myself liking it as either or. You could pick whichever, based on what you prefer. I think both are effective options in here. Moving on to the energy, we do play 5 copies of Lightning Energy and 7 copies of Grass. This is just perfect numbers. 12 energy I found is very effective for streaming strong charge consistently throughout the course of the game. 5 lightning is just great for being able to use Tapu Koko GX's Tapu Thunder GX attack. Gives you plenty of lightning energy to be able to pull that off while also having enough lightning energy in the deck to be able to pull off consistent strong charges. 7 grass has been great for being able to get 2 on your Tapu Bulu GX consistently too. I'm very confident with this energy setup, with this energy count, and just been successful in my testing so far. So thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think of this Tapu Bulu GX video in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace.